The morning had settled into its usual rhythm. I sat in my home office, laptop screen glowing with investment portfolios, modest gains, steady returns, nothing exciting. Outside my Philadelphia row house, the August heat was already building. I'd finished my coffee, answered a few emails, and was considering whether to water the small garden out back when my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it for 3 rings, thumb hovering over the decline button. Spam calls came daily now, but something made me answer. Hello, this is Cora. The voice arrived like a winter draft, formal, flat, carrying no warmth whatsoever. I'm having dinner tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. You should come. My chest tightened. 5 years. 5 years of silence, of birthday cards returned to sender, of text messages that never earned even a single word reply. And now this. My daughter's voice in my ear again, as if no time had passed, as if she hadn't cut me out of her life completely. Cora. I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hand gripped the phone harder. It's good to hear from you. I didn't expect. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock. She cut through my words like scissors through paper. My address hasn't changed. Bring $200,000 with you. The number hit me like a physical blow. 200 what? Cora, I don't understand. Why now? Why? It's not complicated. Her tone suggested I was being deliberately obtuse. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Don't be late. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed against my ear, listening to silence. Slowly, I lowered it to the desk. My hand was trembling, not from my 67 years, but from the sheer audacity of what had just occurred. $200,000, demanded as casually as someone might request I bring a bottle of wine. I stood, legs unsteady, and walked to the kitchen. My coffee sat where I'd left it, now cold. I poured it anyway, held the mug with both hands, and moved to the window overlooking my backyard. The small patch of grass needed mowing. The tomato plants I'd started in spring were heavy with fruit. Normal things, mundane things, things that made sense. Nothing about that phone call made sense. 5 years ago, everything had fractured. I'd sold my construction company. 43 years building it from nothing into something solid and respectable. The sale price was substantial. I'd been generous, I thought, given Cora and Stuart $300,000 outright, no strings attached, help them buy their house, start their life together. It hadn't been enough. The memory surfaced unbidden. Stuart standing in my living room, that smug expression twisting his features. You sold the company for over $2 million and gave us scraps, he'd said, his voice dripping with contempt. We deserved half of that at least. And Cora, my daughter, standing beside him, not defending me, not acknowledging the gift, the generosity, the years I'd spent building something to pass on. Instead, she'd looked at me with cold calculation and said, maybe if you'd been fair to your family, we wouldn't have to do this. Do this. As if I were the transgressor. I tried to explain. The company's sale included debts, obligations, retirement funds for employees who'd worked for me for decades. The $2 million wasn't $2 million in my pocket. But Stuart had talked over me, accusing me of cheating them. Cora had said nothing more. Just watched me with those expressionless eyes, while her husband dismantled our relationship sentence by sentence. I'd asked them to leave. They'd left. Since then, silence. I'd sent birthday cards, holiday messages, texts asking if we could talk, if we could find some middle ground. Nothing. Each message a small humiliation, a reminder that my daughter had chosen money over me. And now this. I set down the coffee mug and moved to the living room bookshelf. The photo album was where it always lived. I opened it carefully. Cora at 5, gap-toothed and laughing. Cora at 18, cap and gown. Cora at 29, wedding day. When had that hope curdled into this cold transaction? I pulled out my phone again, opened the message thread with her name. 5 years of one-sided conversation stared back at me. Each one a monument to rejection, a testament to silence. I placed the phone face down on the coffee table. I needed to think. I needed to understand what had changed. What triggered this sudden contact after 5 years of nothing? Why exactly $200,000? Why tomorrow? I reached for my laptop, opened Facebook, something I rarely bothered with anymore. Logged in to check something that was nagging at the back of my mind. My profile loaded. There, at the top of my feed, was the post from yesterday. The photo I'd taken in a moment of simple pride. My new Mercedes S-Class, silver and gleaming in my driveway. The caption: treating myself after some successful investments. Life is good. I stared at the screen, at the list of who had seen it. And there, among the names, Cora Fields. The timestamp showed she'd viewed it multiple times. Yesterday evening, 6 p.m., 7:15, 9:43. 3 separate visits to look at my car, my caption, my small moment of satisfaction. This morning, she'd called. I took a screenshot. The timing wasn't coincidence. 5 years of absolute silence. And less than 24 hours after I posted a photograph of an expensive car, my phone rang with demands for money. 24 hours, I said aloud to my empty house. That's all it took, one picture of a car. And suddenly I'm worth calling after 5 years. The Mercedes had cost me $150,000. A splurge, yes, but I'd earned it. Cora had seen it and calculated that if I could afford that car, I must have liquid assets. Calculated that I was weak enough, lonely enough, desperate enough for her contact, that I'd comply with any demand. Calculated that she could snap her fingers, and I'd come running with my checkbook open. This wasn't a change of heart. This wasn't regret or reconciliation. This was predatory. She'd seen an opportunity and moved on it with the precision of someone circling wounded prey. I closed Facebook and opened a new browser tab, typing Pennsylvania estate law inheritance rights, then irrevocable trust structures, then disinheritance legal requirements Pennsylvania. My construction business had taught me to do thorough groundwork and hire experts. I needed an expert. I found the business card for Margaret Chin, attorney at law. She was sharp and discreet. I rehearsed what I'd say. The estrangement, the sudden demand, the suspicion, and my need to protect what I'd built. If she thinks I'll just hand over money because she snapped her fingers, I muttered. She learned nothing. I dialed the office number. Chun Law Associates. How may I help you? This is Harley Fields. I need to speak with Margaret Chin today if possible. It's urgent regarding estate planning and family matters. I was put on hold. I stared at Cora's wedding photograph. When had I stopped seeing my daughter in that smile? Mr. Fields, Miss Chin can see you at 4 this afternoon. Will that work? I'll be there. Thank you. You want to play this game? I said quietly to Cora's photograph. Fine, but this time we play by my rules. I wasn't going to be a victim this time. I wasn't going to let her use my love for her as a weapon against me. I spent the intervening hours gathering documents. The original will, financial statements, property deeds, investment portfolios, and the records of the $300,000 gift. I needed to prepare myself mentally. This wasn't about petty revenge. This was about demonstrating that respect couldn't be demanded with threats, and that actions had consequences. The drive through Philadelphia traffic gave me time to think. I arrived at Margaret Chen's office, carrying a leather folder thick with evidence. Margaret, mid-50s and sharp-eyed, met me immediately. Harley, come in. In her conference room, I opened my folder, laying out the evidence methodically. The Facebook post, the screenshots with timestamps showing Cora's viewing history, and the timeline documenting 5 years of ignored birthday cards and unanswered messages. She hasn't spoken to me in 5 years, I said. Not a word. Yesterday, I posted a photo of my new car, and this morning, she called demanding $200,000. That tells me everything I need to know about why she reached out. I explained the original estrangement, the company sale, the $300,000 gift, Stuart's accusations of cheating, and Cora standing silent, choosing his narrative. Margaret took notes steadily. She had seen this pattern before. What do you want to do, Mr. Fields? I want to create a new will. I want to disinherit Cora completely. Everything I have, approximately $1.8 million in assets, goes to the Construction Industry Veterans Support Fund instead. Margaret set down her pen. Mr. Fields, I need to ask this clearly. Are you certain about this decision? Disinheriting your only child is legally valid, but it's permanent. Once you present this to her, there's no walking it back. I've had 5 years to think about what family means, I said. She made her choice. Then I'm making mine now. Margaret nodded. If she contests this, she'll likely claim undue influence or diminished capacity. We need to document that you're acting voluntarily, that you understand the implications, and that your reasoning is sound. Then document it. I want this ironclad. I'm not punishing her. I'm protecting what I built from someone who only sees it as money she's owed. Margaret pulled out the Pennsylvania state law reference. Pennsylvania law gives you testamentary freedom, she explained. We'll include a detailed recital of your reasons. The more specific we are about your relationship history and her conduct, the stronger the will becomes. I confirmed the charitable beneficiary. Those people built their lives with their hands, just like I did. They deserve support more than someone who can't see past a dollar sign. We'll also include a no contest clause. For the next hour, we worked through the details. I answered everything clearly, providing the financial documents, explaining my reasoning without emotion. I'll draft this tonight and have it ready by 9 tomorrow morning, Margaret said. One more thing, I requested. I want 5 notarized copies prepared. You want 5 notarized copies for tomorrow. That's unconventional. I'm not most people, and I want her to understand exactly what her phone call cost her. Margaret studied me for a moment, then nodded. I'll arrange it. I've already lived with her choice for 5 years. Now she can live with mine. I left, feeling the weight of what I'd set in motion. I woke before dawn. At 8:30 a.m., I drove to Margaret's office and picked up a large manila envelope sealed with her firm's label. The next stop was Robert Kowalski's Notary Services on Walnut Street. Robert, a gray-haired man with reading glasses, greeted me. I sat across from him, opening the envelope. He examined each page methodically. Mr. Fields, I'm required to ask, are you signing this document of your own free will, without any pressure or coercion from any person? Yes, I said steady. Completely voluntary. I've thought about this carefully. You understand this is your last will and testament, that it supersedes any previous wills, and that it directs the disposition of your estate upon your death. I understand completely. That's exactly what I want. That's because I'm not planning my death, I told him, allowing a slight humorless smile. I'm planning something else entirely. His assistant, Linda, served as the second witness. The process was formal and precise. I signed the original will and 5 copies. Robert applied his notary seal, a heavy embosser, to all 6 documents, transforming drafts into official legal instruments. I requested 5 additional notarized copies. That's unusual for a will. I have unusual circumstances, I said. I need to make sure certain people understand exactly where things stand. When we finished, Robert stacked the documents neatly. I paid his fee in cash. These are now official legal instruments, Mr. Fields, Robert said. Keep them secure. I left his office, drove a few blocks, and pulled over. I opened the envelope, withdrew the top document. My signature, the notary seal, the words, I hereby disinherit my daughter, Cora Elizabeth Fields, for reasons fully detailed herein. 5 years, I said aloud. It took her 5 years to call and 24 hours to lose everything she thought she'd inherit. I secured the envelope and drove home. I dressed carefully, the blue shirt, the dark jeans, maintaining my dignity. At 5 o'clock, I left, placing the portfolio carefully on the passenger seat of the Mercedes S-Class, the car that had started all this. The drive to the suburbs took 40 minutes. Cora and Stuart's home was a 2-story colonial, manicured and confident. I picked up the portfolio and walked to their door. The door opened before I could knock. Dad. Cora's voice was too bright. Her smile stretched too wide. Stuart appeared behind her, extending his hand with practiced congeniality. The contrast to 5 years of silence was staggering. The dining room was elaborately staged with candles, wine glasses, and expensive takeout food. I sat, placing the portfolio beside my chair. Stuart's eyes flicked to it, then away. Cora poured wine with trembling hands, nerves, not emotion. The meal proceeded with stilted conversation. Cora asked questions designed to inventory my resources. Stewart discussed market trends, establishing his expertise. I ate little, watching their rehearsed coordination. After the main course, Stewart leaned back. Harley, I wanted to run something by you. There's an incredible investment opportunity that's come across my desk. His voice shifted into salesman mode. Residential development. Returns are projected at 18 to 22% annually. We need to move fast though. Cora added her piece. Dad, Stewart's been working so hard on this. We finally have a chance to really build something. I know you understand what it means to build a future. I let them finish. I do understand building a future. I spent 43 years building mine. I met Stewart's eyes, then Cora's. I also understand what happens when people only see you as a means to an end. I reached down to the portfolio, opened it with deliberate slowness, withdrew 2 copies of the will, and slid them across the table like dealing cards. One to Cora, one to Stewart. The documents landed between the candles and wine glasses with devastating finality. Stewart picked us up first. His face transitioned, confusion, comprehension, fury. He stood abruptly. What is this? A will. You brought your will to dinner. Cora read slower, her performance crumbling as understanding set in. Tears started before she finished the first page. You asked for $200,000 after 5 years of not speaking to me. I said, my voice calm and factual. I thought you should know where you stand. You're not in this document. Neither of you. Everything goes to the Construction Industry Veteran Support Fund. You were my daughter. I kept my tone steady, controlled. Then you chose to become a stranger who only calls when she wants money. This is what that choice costs. Stewart slammed the document on the table. You can't do this. We'll fight this. You're not in your right mind. We'll prove it. I stood. I'm perfectly sound. Ask the notary, the attorney, the witnesses. This document is legal, filed, and final. I looked at both of them. You wanted to know my value in dollars. Now you know. To you, I was worth a phone call. To me, my legacy is worth more than that. I walked toward the door. Behind me, Cora's voice turned desperate. You'll regret this. Don't walk out that door. I've spent 5 years with regrets. Tonight I finally have clarity instead. I stepped into the cool evening air. Behind me, the shouting began, arguing with each other. I got into my Mercedes. As I pulled away, Stewart was already phone pressed to his ear. This wasn't ending. This was just beginning. My phone woke me before dawn. 6 missed calls from Cora, 3 from Stewart, and several texts. The war had begun. At my kitchen table, I began documenting. I took screenshots of everything and created an evidence folder. Cora's early texts alternated between tearful apologies. Dad, please call me. I'm sorry. And furious accusations. You're being incredibly selfish. Stewart's email had the subject line legal action and claimed diminished intent or malicious capacity. I categorized everything. Threat, manipulation, guilt trip, legal intimidation. I saved every recording and created a spreadsheet tracking every contact attempt. The third morning brought Cora herself. I was at my kitchen window when her car pulled aggressively into the driveway. I moved to my front window and started recording video. Pennsylvania law allowed it on my own property for security. Cora alternated between crying and yelling. You're being cruel, vindictive. Everyone needs to know what kind of father does this. Then Danny Morrison, my neighbor and a retired police officer, emerged. Miss, I'm going to ask you to leave. This is disturbing the peace. Mr. Fields is within his rights to not engage with you. She got back in her car, but not before a final shout toward my window. Danny waited, then confirmed I was all right. You've got my number. That video you took. Keep that safe. I saved the video and sent Margaretchen an email. Anticipated legal challenge. Attaching all screenshots, transcripts, the video, and my timeline. 2 days of quiet passed. Margaret called. Harley, I received formal notice this morning. Stewart retained Nathan Berkowitz. He's aggressive but predictable. They're filing to contest the will on grounds of diminished capacity and emotional duress. We need to move fast. I expected this. What do we need to do? Medical evaluation, psychological assessment. Anything that proves you were and are of sound mind. The stronger the documentation, the faster we can shut this down. I called Dr. Stevens's office immediately. The examination was comprehensive. Cognitive function tests, memory, reasoning, processing speed. Harley, your cognitive function is excellent, Dr. Stevens said, reviewing the results. Memory, reasoning, judgment, all within normal range for your age. Actually, better than average. No signs of neurological issues. You're healthier than most 67-year-olds I see. I need that in writing, document detailed. Someone's trying to claim I'm not competent to make my own decisions. He looked up, understanding immediately. Family dispute over money. Something like that. I'll have a comprehensive report ready by tomorrow. 15 years I've treated you, Harley. You're one of the most clear-headed patients I have. The next day brought the psychological evaluation with Dr. Patricia Huang. She asked, "Walk me through how you made the decision to change your will. What was your thought process?" My daughter didn't contact me for 5 years. Then she called demanding $200,000 the day after seeing a photo of my car online. I consulted my attorney, considered my options, and decided my assets would do more good supporting veterans than enabling someone who sees relationships as transactions. That's a very coherent, logical progression. She concluded, "Mr. Fields, you demonstrate full mental capacity and sound decision-making." Margaret reviewed both reports, satisfaction visible. "This is solid. 2 independent medical professionals, both stating you're fully competent." I mentioned the emerging gossip campaign where Stewart was claiming I had memory problems, emotional issues. "Document everything," Margaret said. I spent that evening making calls, countering the emotional manipulation with calm facts. Stewart is trying to contest my will because he didn't like what's in it. The doctor visits are part of protecting my right to make my own choices. By evening, I had reached 4 people who had heard Stewart's story and successfully countered it. Margaret and I reviewed the documentation. "We're well defended now," she said. "What's your next move?" "What if I remove what they're fighting over? Not from the will. Make it disappear before I'm even gone." Margaret leaned forward. "An irrevocable trust." "Exactly. That's aggressive. Once you do that, those assets are gone. You can't change your mind." "I won't change my mind." I calculated transferring $500,000, enough to matter, but still retaining $1.3 million for my comfortable retirement. 2 days later, Margaret had the trust documents ready. "An irrevocable charitable trust removes assets from your estate immediately," she explained. "They're gone. Not in your will. Not contestable. Cora and Stewart can fight over the will all they want, but they can't touch what's already transferred. And once I sign this, it's permanent. No one can challenge it, claim I was incompetent, force it back into the estate. Irrevocable means irrevocable. We have your medical evaluations, witness testimony, documentation of your deliberative process. This trust is as bulletproof as we can make any legal document." "Then let's do it," I said. "They want to fight over my money. Let's give them less to fight over." The signing process was meticulous, with witnesses and notarization. Immediately after, I called my broker and executed the $500,000 securities transfer to the new trust account. Margaret cautioned against making a public statement, but I insisted on asserting my autonomy. Right now, Stewart and Cora are controlling the narrative. People are hearing that I'm incompetent or cruel. I composed an email and sent it to Margaret. "How's this? Families are built on respect and love, not financial obligation. After much thought and consultation with legal and medical professionals, I've made decisions about my legacy that reflect my values. I hope everyone can respect that we all have the right to choose how our lives work benefits the world." Her response came quickly. "That's good. Dignified. Doesn't give them ammunition." Margaret Chen's primary legal strategy to counter the claim of emotional duress is to establish a clear, documented record of sound mental capacity and careful deliberation in my decision-making process. Specifically, she relied on medical/psychological competency, The reports from Dr. Stevens and Dr. Huang serve as independent, professional testimony that I have full cognitive function and made the decision voluntarily and logically, directly contradicting the diminished capacity and emotional duress claims. Deliberate timeline, my detailed timeline, showing 5 years of estrangement, the immediate predatory demand, and the 24 hours of documented thought and professional consultation before signing the will, proves the decision was not rash or emotionally driven, but was a rational response to Cora's calculated actions. No contest clause. This clause within the will is a legal deterrent that threatens Cora and Stuart with forfeiting any potential, albeit already zero, inheritance if they challenge the will, making the litigation itself a high-risk, low-reward gamble for them. To further support this strategy, Margaret would likely have requested evidence of long-term estrangement, the returned birthday cards, unanswered text messages, and dated logs of communication attempts from me, showing that the emotional distance was established by Cora and Stuart long before the will change, proving their current distress is financial, not relational. Documentation of previous generosity, records of the $300,000 gift given 5 years prior. This would counter any claim that I was cruel or financially neglectful, establishing a pattern of generous behavior that was rejected, thus making my current decision to protect assets a rational, final act of self-preservation. Proof of Stuart's financial solicitation, the Facebook screenshots, the voicemail demanding $200,000, and the notes from the dinner where Stuart pitched the investment opportunity, prove the motive for their contact was purely transactional, justifying the financial obligation, part of my rationale. I clicked publish and watched. Within minutes, comments began appearing. Danny Morrison. Well said, Harley. A man's entitled to his decisions. Respect. A former construction colleague. Harley, you built one of the most solid companies in Philadelphia with integrity. Whatever you decide about your legacy will have that same integrity. Don't let anyone tell you different. Support accumulated. I was seen as someone making clear, autonomous choices. Then a new notification. A private message request from an unknown name. The message was brief, urgent. You should know what they're planning. Can we talk? This has gone too far. I ignored it. Likely manipulation. 3 days later, my phone rang. Cora's name. Her voice was subdued. Dad, Stuart and I have been doing a lot of thinking. We handled everything wrong. Could we meet just to talk? Not about money, about us. I was skeptical. Where? A coffee shop on Market Street. Thursday afternoon. 2 o'clock, we'll be there. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I checked that my phone's voice recorder worked. Pennsylvania was a one-party consent state. I rehearsed questions. Thursday arrived. I chose a corner table, activated the recording app, and placed my phone face down on the table. Stuart and Cora entered, subdued, wearing expressions of remorse. Cora spoke first. I realize I let Stuart's stress about money affect how I treated you. That was wrong. Stuart followed. I pushed Cora to ask for money when we should have just asked to reconnect. Financial pressure made me lose perspective on what's actually important. I've been reconsidering some of my decisions, I said, giving them bait. There might be room for adjustments. Stuart's eyes sharpened. Adjustments like, to the will or the trust? So they knew about the trust. Cora leaned forward. Dad, if you did reconsider, we wouldn't need much. Maybe just enough to cover our mortgage, guess stable. $200,000 would change everything for us. Stuart added quickly. We have some debts. Set up something regular. Even just $5,000 monthly. We could focus on rebuilding our relationship without financial pressure hanging over us. You're saying money stress is preventing you from being fully present in a relationship? I asked. Exactly, Stuart said. Once we know we're financially secure, we can really invest in family time. Cora nodded emphatically. That's really what this has all been about, security. Once we have that, everything else falls into place. I'd heard enough. 20 minutes of them discussing dollar amounts and what they'd tolerate for money. All of it recorded, clear, damning. I stood. I'll think about everything you've said. This conversation has been clarifying. I drove home, immediately backing up the audio file. It's time to end this, I texted Margaret. The next day, the conference room felt tense. Stuart, Cora, and their attorney, Nathan Berkowitz, sat opposite Margaret and me. Nathan opened. My clients believe Mr. Fields' recent testamentary decisions were made under significant emotional duress. However, in the interest of avoiding prolonged litigation, they're prepared to settle if Mr. Fields will restore Ms. Fields as primary beneficiary with a minimum inheritance of $1.2 million. Margaret responded calmly, sliding the documentation across the table. Medical reports, psychological evaluations. Dr. Stevens, perfect scores. Dr. Huang found him fully capable of reasoned decision-making. No signs of coercion, depression, or impaired judgment. Nathan attempted to counter. The emotional context remains relevant. Making such a drastic decision immediately following a contentious phone call suggests. The timeline shows 24 hours of deliberation. Margaret interrupted smoothly. Consultation with legal counsel and methodical execution. Hardly impulsive. Furthermore, she paused for effect. We have evidence that refutes the notion that your clients are seeking reconciliation based on anything other than financial motivation. I reached into my pocket. Margaret plugged the small audio recorder into the speaker system. I'd like to play a short recording of a meeting Mr. Fields had with his daughter and son-in-law yesterday afternoon. The small box whirred to life. Stuart's voice filled the room. Once we know we're financially secure, we can really invest in family time. Cora's voice. We don't care about the will or the money. We just want you back in our lives. $200,000 would change everything for us. Stuart's voice again. If you could help with those, maybe set up something regular, even just $5,000 monthly. We could focus on rebuilding our relationship without financial pressure hanging over us. Cora's voice, the nervous laugh. I'd even tolerate Stuart's parents at Thanksgiving if it meant having you there too. I stopped the recording. The silence in the room was absolute. Stuart's face was white. Cora stared at the table, her composure completely gone. Margaret spoke into the silence. Their claim of emotional duress asserts Mr. Fields was manipulated. This recording demonstrates your client's primary and overwhelming motivation is financial, entirely separate from familial affection, and directly contradicts their public claims and the basis of your legal challenge. 3 days ago, Mr. Fields established an irrevocable charitable trust, transferring $500,000 in liquid assets. Those funds are no longer part of his estate. They cannot be contested, challenged, or recovered. Stuart's face went white. You did what? When? After your attorney filed his challenge, I said. I decided if you were going to fight over my estate, I'd make the estate smaller. Cora turned to Nathan, desperate. Can he do that? Isn't that, can't we stop it? Nathan's professional mask showed cracks. An irrevocable trust properly executed is beyond challenge. The assets are gone. Margaret delivered the final blow. There's one more thing. She connected the audio device. Mr. Fields met with your clients 2 days ago. Pennsylvania is a one-party consent state for recording. I think you should hear this conversation. She pressed play. Stuart's recorded voice. Once we know we're financially secure, we can really invest in family time. Cora's laugh. I'd even tolerate Stuart's parents at Thanksgiving. Stuart, could we talk timelines if you were willing to reconsider? How soon could changes be made? The recording ended. Nathan's professional calculation was clear. The case was lost. Nathan conferred quietly with Stuart and Cora. Finally, Nathan spoke formally. After reviewing the comprehensive evidence, my clients have decided to withdraw their challenge. We acknowledge Mr. Fields acted within his legal rights with full mental capacity. Stuart hissed at Cora. You and your tolerating comment. You couldn't just stick to the script. Cora's face crumpled. She looked at me, tears streaming. Daddy, please. This isn't how it should end. I stood slowly. 5 years ago, you chose money over me. You stopped calling, stopped visiting, cut me completely out of your life until you saw a photo of an expensive car. I paused. Now you know what that choice costs. I turned toward the door. You'll both be fine. You have each other, jobs, health. You just don't have my money. Live with the choices you made. I walked out. Behind me, Margaret's voice. Nathan, I'll send over formal withdrawal documents for your signatures. This matter is concluded. I drove home. The wait for reconciliation was over. At home, I made coffee and sat in my living room. I didn't open the photo album. The woman in that conference room wasn't someone I recognized anymore. My phone buzzed. Margaret, well done. You protected what matters. I looked around my house. $500,000 was already supporting veterans. I had the recordings, the documentation, the evidence that showed who chose what. I'd spent 43 years building a construction company. Building required solid foundations and the wisdom to walk away from projects that were compromised. This was simply another kind of construction, building boundaries, protecting what I created. I sat in the quiet of my home, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in 5 years. The clarity of knowing I'd done what needed doing, protected my autonomy, set consequences for behavior that demanded consequences. That was victory enough.